So DocseraDB is all about external data sources. They can be Excel workbooks, Access databases, Outlook contacts, or SQL databases. And any of those sources can be stored locally on your own computer or on your business's network, or even accessed remotely in the cloud. The first data source we're going to use here for our first few examples is an Excel spreadsheet. Here it is. It's just a very short spreadsheet, so we have something to work with. It has two worksheets, the company worksheet here and the person worksheet here. The company worksheet identifies each company with a number, and then the person worksheet is related to that company worksheet because each person is assigned one of those company numbers so that we know the first three people are from company number 1, the next 3 people are from company number 2, and these 4 people are from company number 3. The people are also identified as to their role in the company. It tells whether they're an officer, how many shares they own, if they're a director or a manager. All that's in our people table. And the relationship between these two tables is very important. We're going to talk about relationships more later, but it's important just as a concept that different tables of information can be closely related to each other. Given that as our source material, let's talk about our task at hand. Let's suppose I'm a lawyer for these with these corporate clients, and they need to send out annual meeting notices. Next month is the annual meeting for some of these companies, and so they need to send out a notice to their shareholders. It's my job to create these letters to the shareholders. I'm going to take 4 different approaches to this task. We'll start off simple, and we'll work our way all the way up to rocket science here. I'm going to close this and go to Word. The first approach, the most simple approach here, is going to ask for 2 pieces of information in the questionnaire. It's going to ask me for the date of the shareholders meeting. That's going to happen next month. So let's say that's 5/15/2017. And then it asks me for the name of the recipient of this letter. Because this form is linked up to my Excel spreadsheet, all I need to do is click the Fetch button to choose a recipient's name, and I get my list of recipients. This has reached right out into my Excel spreadsheet. I don't even have Excel running at the moment, but DocseraDB is able to reach out into that Excel spreadsheet file, seek out exactly the information it needs, which is the list of potential recipients, and present it to me here in my Word program. Let's suppose in this case that I want to send a letter to Ed Evans at Gadget Company, and I'll click OK. And just given that little bit of information, when I click Fill, the form goes out and extracts all the additional information it needs from the data source. It pulls in all the information I need about Ed himself. It pulls in information about the company to which Ed belongs, including the list of officers for that company. It knows that the president of that company is female, so it fixes my pronoun here, and it knows Fran Ferguson is the secretary of that company. All of that from just a single selection in the questionnaire. So that's pretty good right off the bat. But now I'll move on to approach number 2, getting a little bit more sophisticated. I'm going to reset this form so it's in its original state there. And I actually need to create not just one letter. This company that I'm creating letters for has several shareholders. So what I would like to do is create letters to each one of those shareholders all at the same time, rather than doing them one by one. So when I click Fetch here to choose my recipient, instead of choosing a single recipient like I did last time, this time I'm going to choose the Multi-Doc tab. There's an illustration here to show me what's about to happen. I'll click OK. And now because I've chosen Multi-Doc, when I click the Fill button, I get an additional screen here, which asks me to select all of the recipients for this letter, not just one, but now I have an opportunity to click a whole set of recipients. Let's suppose we're creating letters for Widget World, and so I need to select Gary and Helen and Inez and John. I want to create a letter for each one of them. So that's an improvement over our last approach, but now before I hit the OK button here and proceed, I'm going to show you another refinement with approach number 3. Approach number 3 says, hey, it's too much trouble for me to look through this list and manually select all the people I want to send the letter to. What if my list of potential recipients here is hundreds or thousands of names? I don't want to have to scroll through all of that and then manually click a checkbox for each recipient. So instead, let me close this one. In approach number 3, we have the same form, but we use a little bit different questionnaire. This questionnaire still asks for the date of the shareholders meeting next month. We'll say that's 5/15/27. But then instead of asking me to provide a single recipient's name, it asks me to provide a company's name. The question says, create notice letters for which company? And when I click fetch, again, the program reaches out into that Excel spreadsheet to find exactly the information it needs to show me. In this case, it's showing me a list of potential companies, and it's up to me to choose which one I want. Let's say I'm creating letters for Widget World, and I click OK. Given just that one selection, when I click the Fill button, it goes again out into the Excel spreadsheet and restricts itself to showing me only the individuals who are associated with the Widget World company. So I don't have to scroll through and find them myself. Instead, they're all presented for me here in a list. I can just select them all and then click the OK button to create all 4 letters. I'm going to go ahead and proceed this time to create 4 letters. This screen, for those who have used Doxera's sets feature, this is familiar. This gives me a chance to automatically save and name each of the documents that's about to get created. These are going to get saved in a folder on my desktop named results. And in fact, I think I might have some leftover files in there from last time I did this. I do. I'm going to empty those out. So there's our empty results folder. It's about to be filled with 4 letters. I'm going to be naming these files with just the person's name. I have lots of choices here for how I want to name files. And when I'm finished, I'd like to open that folder to view the results. Now I click OK, and here is my first letter to Gary Grant, letter number 2 to Helen Hopper, letter number 3 to Inez, and letter number 4 to John. All 4 letters done, and there's my results folder with the results. Let's just open one of these letters to take a look. Just as expected, there's my letter to Gary with all the appropriate information about Widget World, the appropriate secretary's name, and so forth. All 4 letters in one shot. Now let's go on to the 4th approach. This is our most sophisticated approach. For this, I'm going to return to the Excel spreadsheet for a moment. This is just a few sample lines here, but in the real world, I might have maybe a few hundred corporate clients here. Each one of them might have a few dozen shareholders on this worksheet. At any given time, when I need to generate letters, instead of, let's see, right now we are in April, so next month, May, I'm going to have to generate letters for Acme and for Widget World. But if I have a whole lot of clients, my April letters might be for several dozen corporations, each of which might have several dozen shareholders. I might be creating 1,000 letters per month each time I do this. Since all of the data is known, all of the company names, all of the shareholder names, all of the officers, absolutely all of the information required to generate those 1,000 letters is here. I don't need to ask any questions at all. It's all known information. So why do we need any human intervention at all? Let's look at our fourth approach. And here we have a form that removes the human intervention. The questionnaire asks no questions at all. Instead, it just has the instruction that says click fill to create annual meeting notice letters for next month. It doesn't even ask me for today's date because my computer knows what day today is. So when I click the fill button, I'm going to empty out that results folder again. So it's empty. And I'm going to shrink this down so we can actually see it as it processes. I think I have 2 copies open. There we are. There's my results folder about to be filled. Here's my form, which has asked me no questions at all. And I click fill. It tells me these letters are due for next month's meetings. It has gone out and identified Acme and Widget World as the companies that have meetings coming up next month. And then it found all of the individuals related to those companies. So it's up to me. All I have to do is select them all. It tells me 7 documents will be created and click OK. Again, I can name them however I like. Click OK again, and it's off and running. There's my first letter to Alan, second letter to Betty, and so forth. So these letters are taking 3 to 4 seconds each. If I had 1,000 letters to do, it would take my computer just a little less than an hour to get this job done each month. So now all that's left for me is to find someone in my office who's capable of clicking 3 buttons in a row. And I'll put a reminder in their calendar that says on a monthly basis to run this form, and the job is done. It just takes care of itself. This job is so repetitive, it's just mind-numbingly difficult for a human being, but computers just eat this stuff up. A computer will just churn through this without a care, and a human being will inevitably just begin to make error after error when asked to do